connection. We hope you and your families are all keeping well and safe and in good health. Before we begin, I'm going to pause and check if the audio connection is okay. So on the right side of your screen, just below your name, you can see a hand icon just below your name. Can you please click on the icon if you can hear me? So it's just below your name. Great. I can see a lot of hands going up, which is great. Just to give you an overview of the exciting session planned for you today, we will hear from Matt Cantwell, Chief Strategy Officer, McGraw Hill, followed by Lefteris Cerise, Regional Director, McGraw Hill. Our chief guest speaker, Dr. Ghada Al-Arifi, Dean College of Business at Princess Noura University, will talk about the need and vision for successful online learning. We will then dive into our panel session with our wonderful speakers, Dr. Asim Al-Humedi, who is the Chairman of Finance Department at King Saud University, and Dr. Asimenu Bireda, who is Lecturer and Course Coordinator at Bin Sultan University. Finally, and we hope we do have time to cover the amazing Learning Integrity Tool Proctorial within Connect, demonstrated by Geeta Chandolia. Thank you all for joining us today. We do want to make this a very interactive session, so please feel to ask questions and engage with the presenter as you speak, which is. I'm now quickly going to go over the moderators for the session for today. There is myself, Sarah Shuja. We also have Afsana Akhtar and Najwa Al-Dardir on the call, who are on board to support you with any questions and comments that you may have. Before I pass it on to Matt Cantwell, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Afsana, who will go over the housekeeping slides for us. So let me just pass that right to her.
Thank you, Sarish. Can you hear me? Just double check sound is working.
Yes.
Perfect. Just before we begin, as Sarish mentioned, I will just go over some housekeeping. If you do have any connectivity issues during the call and you can't hear properly, I would recommend calling in using your phone. Otherwise, obviously, your computer is absolutely fine as well. And just to bear in mind, if you are having someone in the house who's using YouTube or Netflix or any kind of streaming platforms, I would recommend having them switched off if you are experiencing issues with hearing or seeing the slides on the screen. The session will be recorded. If you do miss anything, we will be circulating the recording afterwards, and there will be opportunities for question and answer at the end of the session too. So could you just switch to the next slide, please? Thank you. And just a heads up for everybody who's joined, we can't unmute your mics, unfortunately, just because there's a lot of you on here today, but you can use the Q&A and the chat box on the right-hand side to ask any questions, share your comments, or provide any feedback to the speakers. So yeah, I'll pass it back on to Sarish. If you do have any questions, of course, or experiencing technical issues, do drop a note in the chat box, and I'll be there to help out on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Afsana. I wonder if we've got Matt on the call. I don't see him, and I don't see his stars. Hello, Lefteris. Matt, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, perfect. Yes, we can.
You can hear and see me.
I can, yes.
Okay.
I switched on my video because my connection is really weird today. I don't want to take any chances, but yeah.
Okay, well, I'll get started. Good afternoon, Princess Noura University, Dean Ghada Al-Arifi, McGraw Hill participants. Hello from New York. Thank you for the opportunity to present today, and thanks especially for the opportunity to support PNU. The last trip I took before I was quarantined was a visit to the region, to Riyadh and Dubai in February. I enjoyed the trip very much. The visit, the campus was impressive. It was beautiful. So I remember I was in a rush to make my onward flight to Dubai, and it was the last time I was in a rush to catch a flight in some time. So again, Matthew Cantwell, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for our international division, from which we sell into 130 countries. We sell titles from 14,000 authors, over 50 of whom are Nobel laureates. We now sell more digital product than print books in our 125-year history. We have over 4 million users on our Connect platform, the platform I know PNU is getting familiar with. And we are especially proud to have #1 market share amongst our peers in the Middle East region. It's no secret to the team when I say that the Middle East is my favorite region to support amongst our many markets. And this is because I have family in the region. I have family in Turkey. And as much as I can, I enjoy getting to the region to work with Lefteris and his team. In my brief presentation here, about 2 minutes, I just want to make 2 points. First, the team you have virtually in front of you, the McGraw Hill Middle East team, is our best. They have the full support of McGraw Hill, our global resources, our 4,000 employees, and our digital infrastructure in the USA. It is because of Nashua and our team that we have and maintain our #1 position. And while we're far apart and virtual on WebExes, I just want the PNU team to know that you have the full support of McGraw Hill as we go forward into these discussions. Second, I want to highlight that we share a common vision, that is female empowerment, and we are proud to support PNU and Saudi Arabia and our many education customers around the world in this journey. In fact, McGraw Hill is on a journey as well, female empowerment. We have roughly 50% females by employee, which is very good. But even here, we need more women in leadership. In fact, McGraw Hill recently stood up a Women in Leadership Committee. I'm excited to be one of 2 male panelists on that. And what we're doing is to work and enable more females to be in leadership positions. And we're sponsoring projects and collaboration to ensure that females in McGraw Hill get the support that they need, which I see as a key tenet of Saudi Vision 2030, to increase the rate of participation of women in the workforce from 22% to 30%. So please count McGraw Hill as a partner in that aspect of Saudi Vision. I think there's a big responsibility for PNU to support that vision, and we're here to support you. So I look forward to today's discussion. If you need anything from McGraw Hill, please let me know. Otherwise, again, you're in great hands with the team there, and I look forward to the discussion today with Naja, Lefteris, and others. So thank you, Suresh. I'll turn it back to you so we can get into today's discussion.
Thank you, Matt. I will now hand over to Lefteris. Lefteris Louise. Lefteris, can you hear us? I think we might have an audio.
I wonder if you need to change the panelist.
He is on the panel.
Okay, I'm still on as presenter here. I'll go on mute.
Sorry, everyone, we're having a technical difficulty. I'm just going to check to get Lefteris on. We can hear from Dr. Ghada meanwhile, I suppose. Dr. Ghada, can you hear us? You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, perfect. We can hear you. Brilliant. I'll just skip over.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Greeting everyone. Thank you, Matthew and McGraw Hill Middle East, and a special thanks to Najwa. Your efforts, and it's been great during the past few months and even before that. But during the COVID-19 epidemics, your support was great. Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone on this session. I would like to start with, of course, e-learning is the hot topic of the hour. However, e-learning been the focus in the past a few years. So universities started to invest in their electronic platforms. Of course, this type of investments being questioned by a lot of institutions in terms of cost and value proposition, and what is the return on investment. However, after the COVID-19 epidemic, whoever invested heavily on their electronic platform, they won the fight against COVID-19. In terms of the education went ongoing, and there were no drop in their education or giving their lectures. Of course, different countries and different educational organizations around the world, how they faced the epidemic was different. Some of them, they stopped completely, and some of them, they tried to use alternative or different online tool that is available, and some they relied heavily on their own, and they were the winners, I guess. During the past few months, we went in few days from offline to online. At the beginning, everyone tried to do their best. We wanted our student interest at our hearts, and we tried to upload everything we had online. We wanted to support our students as much as we could, but we had very short time to have a strategy on hand on what is our e-learning strategy. Of course, after this epidemic, we needed to have a clear e-strategy on ground, and in addition to that, a crisis management strategy, because the world was on a crisis management mode for the past few months. This kind of epidemic is very new in this age, but the technologies available now could help us in overcoming it. But what is the difference between crisis education and e-education? In the crisis education, we just tried to be connected to the students and to try to achieve as much as learning outcomes we can. But when you design a course to be an e-learning course, then the learning outcomes and the assessments will be quite designed on the or electronic methods of education. Therefore, what organizations need to do today is to have a clear strategy to re-evaluate their courses and how we can be more effective when we teach online. Because e-learning have a lot of challenges. And one of the greatest challenges is the student participation and engagement through those electronic platforms. This is something could be new for most of the students and most of the faculty. But preparing the faculty well and the students and giving them the tools and the right strategies to succeed is very crucial at this time. Therefore, it's very important for each university to have a strategy, to prepare well to implement this strategy, to have the support for their faculty and their students to implement the strategy effectively. E-learning is no longer a choice, it's a must. And I don't think that we can go back to our usual classroom lectures anymore. In some countries, some universities, electronic learning or e-learning wasn't a choice, but now it is the choice that we have to give an effective teaching. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to hear the panelists and the Q&A. Thank you for McGraw Hill giving me this opportunity to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hada. It's actually fascinating to see how you've transformed your education system at BMU. And like you said, it's very right that this is the way forward, and there is no doubt about that. This is how things will move on. There is no going back, really. Thank you so much. That's really informative. We're going to quickly welcome our speakers. I'm not going to go into the details of how amazing jobs that they've done in education. You can read that up. And also, I just want to introduce our speakers to you. We have Dr. Asim Al-Humedi, who's the chairman of Finance Department at King Saud University. We've got Dr. Asim Al-Abareda, who is the lecturer and course coordinator at Sayyid Sultan University. And so for the first panel discussion, we know there is no doubt that the use of technology in education is on the rise. And it will be very interesting to hear how digital learning impacts teaching and learning and student engagement. So let's dive into our first session, which is Digital Adaptive Teaching and Learning, a focus on student engagement. I think, Dr. Breda, I'll have the first question over for you, which is, could you please tell us what adaptive learning technologies you've used and how they have impacted your learning?
Thank you very much for inviting me to share my experience and also the experience from the side of the university. I come from Prince Sultan University. The university started planning to roll out online and blended courses in late 2019, that's around October. After a long period of planning, we finally come up with 2 signature courses as a pilot project to run in the university. So one of the courses that was selected to run for blended program was a personal development skill course, which I am personally involved as a lecturer and a course coordinator. For this course, we used an adaptive learning technology from McGraw Hill, which you know is called Connect with a smart book option. So to just give you an experience, our experience of using this technology, it is better to look at it with the approach in the instruction. Adaptive learning is an instructional approach that uses technology to collect student data and to provide a personalized learning environment. So the system actually interacts with the individual learner to learn about their experiences, their behavior, their performance. So based on this data, the system provides the students a personalized learning experience. So what is this personalized learning experience? How it has impacted the teaching learning process is an important question. And I want to look at it from the perspective of like practice, engagement, feedback, and also further insight into the teaching learning process. When I said practice, when a student is encouraged to use the system, the learning technology system in that platform, the student is presented with a number of activities or exercises that they will use to practice the contents that have been taught in the classroom. So the practice actually provides a safe environment for the student to make mistakes, to try out what has been learned in the classroom and to practice it. As the saying goes on, the more our students practice, the better they will become. So practice is an important component in this personalized learning environment. And the other thing is also engagement. This is also very important. The system provides, a personalized environment, that is tailored for individual needs and levels of understanding. You can imagine this in terms of, for example, the class size you may have. For example, this course that I am responsible for is provided for PYP students, preparatory year level students. We received a large number of students, particularly at the beginning of the semester, and we have limited number of staff members. And normally we can have a student class size that range from 25 to 30. So you can ask yourself how many students, the type of student characteristics that we have in a single class, leave alone the different sections. So you may have students who are exceptionally doing well. You may have students doing very well, and also you may have students who are struggling to learn in the same class. So how can I, as an instructor, can accommodate all students' needs? It is totally unimaginable if you think it in a traditional face-to-face environment, because there is no real-time data about my students' learning experience. However, when we use this type of technology, which is an adaptive technology, it actually presents the activities, the learning activities tailored to individual student needs. So for those students who are very smart, very good, high achievers, the system automatically keep on presenting more difficult tasks. For those students who are struggling, the system provides like simpler questions so that they can build their self-confidence. Like I said earlier, this is all about building a self-confidence, showing the students that they can learn, they are good at, in whatever they do. So this engagement, individualized engagement activity is one of, the contribution in terms of adaptive learning technologies. The other thing I would like to talk about is feedback. As we all want to provide feedback to all our students, but do we have the time to? How many hours do we teach? Then you give an exercise. Can you give a feedback to all individual students within that class time? It's totally impossible. So we use this tool, this technology to help us to make even feedback in a real-time basis, individualized. What it means is that you may give a student a learning activity, and the student can engage with that learning activity outside the classroom, at home, in the middle of the night, whatever, at any time limit they want to try out the activities. But the good thing is that the feedback is there. So the presence of feedback in a real-time scenario makes even learning more engaging. They want to learn more because they see their progress in the learning path. The other important contribution of this technology is the kind of insight that give us as an educators about the teaching learning process. Everybody wants us to know how our students are doing. Do they understand what we are teaching them? Are they confused? Or am I giving them the same information which they are bored? All these questions always comes to our mind. There is no way that we can check, this kind of question instantly. However, and still can consider this technology. The technology can provide you with instant feedback on such things. Because, at the beginning, I said that adaptive learning is a data-driven technology. So what can I do with that data as an instructor? Then the important thing is I can use the data, for example, to evaluate the activities that I have provided. Are they difficult? Are they interesting? Are they engaging? I can use the data even to check the assessment. How is my assessment? I can use even the data to check my lesson plan. Maybe you go home, you check students' self-reports that you gave them in the class, a very short survey. Then based on that survey, you can redesign, the lesson plan for the next class and make the class more interesting. So these are some of, the contribution of this learning technology that instructor can solve. But this is not the only thing that adaptive learning can provide. It is also important for our students. It provides a better opportunity for learning as it combines a number of, learning experiences. So including a number of learning experiences in one platform means addressing the students' learning preferences. The students can come with different learning preferences. It is also used multimedia technology, which makes it more interesting and enjoyable. And finally, we have to also put into consideration the skills the student will also develop in participating in such kind of learning experience. The skills like in self-directed learning, skills like digital media, skills in computer literacy, skills in information processing skills. All these skills are very important in the 21st century. So all in all, I would say that adaptive learning can help instructor to create a more engaging, a more student-centered environment, and it also gives a data to visualize the teaching outcome in that classroom. So this is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Breda. That's very interesting. And you've made a very good point about the practice, and the more students know, the higher their learning curve would be, and how the platform constantly adapts to the student needs, creating a personalized experience. So thank you for sharing that with us. Before we move on, I just want to remind the attendees you can ask any questions with the presenters. So you can just type them up in the Q&A, and we will be covering Q&A in each of the panel sessions, so we can go through your questions. If you have got any questions for the presenter, any questions in general, please type them up in the Q&A box. I'll now move on to the next question, which is for Dr. Asif, which is, how did you manage to increase student engagement during online learning? I know we've all dealt with online learning and how we've transformed. And could you please explain how you did the online resources or the instructor resources for student engagement?
Yes, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to actually share my experience. Before I started talking about online learning, I would like to give a brief of my experience actually, and when it started. Back 3 years ago, I was assigned as a chairman of the finance department, and actually I was supervising more than 5,000 students in the College of Business. So we have a lot of students needed to be monitored and also organized in such a harmony way. One of the things that catched my attention is that we have one of the introductory level courses, which is the Principle of Finance, where we have more than 1,000 students. We experience heterogeneity in student performance in these specific courses. So with different type of instructors, you expect different level of student engagement and also learning experience. So I took the task of trying to eliminate these heterogeneities, and digging deeper, I found that the main cause of this heterogeneity was the limited access for resources for these students. Well, talking about Saudi culture in general, I've been working in different universities. I noticed that the students rely more heavily on the PowerPoint slides, on some traditional or hand notes, and their level of dependence on textbook or the authenticated resources is very low. So the first task I have to solve here is to actually increase their engagement in the reliable resources. So I looked for the market, and basically I have contacted several publishers, and then I came with a solution, which is to try to move the student to online platforms. One of the reasons to do that is basically, the offline resources is very expensive, and trying to get the exact number of offline resources for the high number of students is a very expensive task. So one of the solutions that has been provided to me is to move on to the digital platforms. Digital platforms is readily accessible, and it is have a fraction of the cost of the offline resources. So I went ahead and I mandate that every student in the principal in the low-level classes must have access to the digital platform. My goal is to have to give the students the fairness of accessing the information needed, and working from that point, actually we see a lot of progress and improvement. Before the pandemic strikes, we were able to achieve 100% engagement in online resources. We moved gradually. So the first semester, I have moved 10% of the student engagement online. And then next semester, I have increased that level to 30%, then 50%, and lastly, in the last fall, we have achieved 100%. 100% means, by 100% that student work must be submitted online through the platform, content management platforms. We have used several of them, and one of them is Connect from McGraw Hill. The last fall, we have managed to make the final exam for 2,700 students across the King College of Business Administration. And we have gained a very valuable experience in how to manage student learning while they are in our site and in front of us. So we have the availability of taking the feedback from the student one-to-one. So when the pandemic strikes last semester, it was a minimal shift. So the instructor were prepared for such a shift, and also the students were prepared for such a shift. Actually, the student engagement, we noticed that when we started applying this online learning platforms, we noticed that the student actually level of heterogeneity decreases, meaning that the student reliance on the textbook, on the resources were increasing in a fast pace, rapid pace. And once we started that, students were asking to actually to implement such a methodology on the other classes, because they felt that they have more access to the resources, and their interests align with the instructor interests. So one of the things that students hate most is the ambiguity in the courses itself. So sometimes you notice some students have fear the course not because it's difficult for them to learn, it's actually difficult for them to find the best resource to learn from. you know that the instructor were very busy actually to manage the student one-to-one questions, and they cannot fulfill all the students, or they cannot answer all the student questions. But having the feedback, the adaptive learning will actually tackle most of this problem. So students spend more time on platforms trying to catch up with other students, and we have seen a level of the student averages very close. The dispersion have disappeared, and this actually facilitates our progress in the course. One of the courses we have managed to increase the level of actually the covered content 30%. And the reason for this capacity was moving to online resources. It is not only, if the class is only 3 hours, you're engaging with the student only 3 hours a week. But with the online platform, this engagement will increase beyond 3 hours. So students will have time to work at home, so you can assign them some of the tasks that you usually do in class. For example, a typical instructor will go over each and every or most of the end of chapter questions, trying to give the student some examples, trying to implement whatever you have taught in the topic. But actually with the online platform, you can assign such a task to the student to do at home, and next class you have a feedback about what exactly difficult for the student, so you can have the you can focus most on these type of questions that the students struggle in, and leave the easy, simple to understand question for the student to do at home. So you can see how you can move fast by applying such a technology and such a methodology. So speaking about online learning, and I'm one of the proponents of online actually learning, because of this, you know, I felt the need to prepare the students to rely on themselves. Actually, feed the student will not give them any advantage in the market later on. So you know that students will have to learn by themselves. We have a very valuable, extensive library in the internet. So you cannot actually give them all the knowledge needed for them to be prepared for the industry and for the market. So they have to custom-made their knowledge by themselves, try to go online, try to think out of the box, and so on. This is actually, we are a facilitator. So this must be done at the beginning of the student program in the university. So we have to train them how to look for the information, how to understand and how to overcome the hurdle and difficulties. But we need to stay alongside with them. We need to answer their questions. We need to facilitate the learning experience for them. So I will come I will answer your question later on. I see some of the questions popping up in the chat. Once the organizer allow me, I can answer this questions. So moving to the online platform, 100%. I don't recommend going through 100% in one step. I really recommend going gradually, trying to apply 10, 20%, then moving on, trying to actually to prevent whatever difficulties, solve the difficulty, address them on a term by term or semester by semester basis. And to do that, actually, I have to do also some workshop with the instructors. We have 52 instructors in the finance department. I managed to actually to bring them in one platform where we have a group we discuss our difficulties and try to share our experience together to overcome any technical hurdles or difficulties.
Hello, Dr. Azam?
Yes. So yes, that's should I answer the second question?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, moving to Connect course actually. Every platform has its own features. One of the features we like the most about Connect is the Learn Smart feature. Trying to gauge the student engagement is very difficult and very hard task to actually to achieve. But with Learn Smart, we have found that this student liked Learn Smart the most, and actually it's helped them trying to keep pace with the lecture. And actually, what it does is give them as custom-based questions according to the student feedback. So whenever the student try to open up the Learn Smart assignments, he will encounter a different number of questions that is different, and these questions is not like whatever the other students have encountered. So you know that the student will try actually to answer these questions. And the good thing about this Learn Smart feature is that if the student is struggling answering one of the questions, he has the ability to go to the exact textbook where the answer is written, and he can read the paragraph and actually learn more about how to answer this question correctly. So he has more than one chance to do the assignment, and we focused on such a feature to manage to bridge the gap between what we expect from the student and his level of performance. So actually, we have each of our 8 courses in finance has taught by McGraw Hill or taught by a textbook from McGraw Hill must have the Learn Smart assignment, and at least a minimum of 8 to 9 assignments is assigned to the student during the semester. So the instructor will be able to see the student progress before he started the lecture, and he know what exactly where exactly the student struggling understanding the topic, so he can elaborate in the class about this topic and try to overcome this misunderstanding and try to explain it more to the student. We also have we also managed to do the quizzes, midterms, and final through the through the Connect portal. But this was face-to-face. The student must come to the class to do such quizzes and midterms. When we moved to the online platform last semester, we were struggling as everybody else to try to tackle the cheating problem. We have come with a solution. We used Proctorio and Proctario, which is the online leading companies for online proctoring, and we managed to proctor these students. Later on we will. I believe that the panelists, the organizer, have some devoted time to discuss Proctorio experience. That's all about our experience. Feel free to ask me any question later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Asim. And yes, we will dive into Proctorio and a lot of questions coming in for assessment, which is our next panel session. But we do have a lot of questions, so thank you so much for your questions. Now, I'm going to read out questions that we have from the panelists, and either Dr. Breda or Dr. Asim, feel free to pick them up, and we can check. So, first question we have is, what was the feedback from the faculty and students when you implemented this online learning? And compared to the traditional teaching method, how did that work?
If you allow me, Dr. Breda, yes. Well, actually, we faced a resistance at the beginning, and it wasn't smooth. But once the instructor felt the advantages of such a platform, they were actually encouraging to move on to increase the percentage of online learning. First of all, you have to, the collaboration and cooperation must be there. So I was trying to do my best to deliver the knowledge to my colleague and to make sure that we are on the same page. I made a frequent meeting twice a week or once a week at least with my colleague to make sure that they have the right tools and they can actually monitor their student one-to-one. Sometimes I shared with them a video that I made, screen recordings that I made to show them how to track their students, how to extend the deadline, for example, how to make sure that the student with special needs, their special needs are fulfilled, and how to give some exceptions, how to actually to eliminate one of the questions that the student struggled in, and so on. So distributing such videos were extremely helpful to move on and to progress in the online shifting, actually.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's a really good experience that you've shared with us. I have another question, which is, how do I support students with emotional and behavioral disorders in an online environment? It's probably a need of the hour these days. Dr. Blair, would you like to answer that?
Well, this is actually a good question.
Yeah.
But, you know, adaptive learning technologies are there to support the teaching learning process. They are not there to fully, you know, exclude the instructor or the presence of face-to-face support. They are there as a tool to support us in engaging our students further. Like I said earlier, you get a data from your students' learning experience. You get a feedback, an instant feedback on the different activities the students are performing. Based on that feedback, you have to move on. You know, using that data, you have to move on to personalize the support for individual students. Maybe you may have, let's say, students like 2 students with such problems. Then you have to personalize the support to those students. Maybe you are fully an academic staff member who may not have, you know, a skill or a profession in supporting students with emotional problems. Then you can also, you know, direct those students to the proper student support services so that they can get, you know, adequate emotional support from, for example, counseling or any other health service supports. But this, particularly the learning technology, is there to address learning difficulties at a different or personalized level. But if you find students who are challenged to learn, then you can you know, go and have a face-to-face interaction with them or address their problems individually. That's based on the data that you get from the system.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really good response. Owing to time, we have a lot of questions and we're putting them down for us, but we're going to move on to the next panel discussion. And I know this is everyone who wants to know about the next panel discussion because you're all very interested. And we do continue to transition to a fully online environment as we've discussed the designing, proctoring, and analyzing. Assessment has overall been a big question for us and a big point of discussion. For our next panel session, we're going to hear from instructors who have crossed that bridge and talk about their experience and challenges. So we'll hear from Dr. Breda and Dr. Asim again. I'm going to address the first question, we've received a lot of questions, and a lot of your questions might also be covered in these questions. How has the introduction of online assessment impacted your course? Dr. Breda?
Well, thank you very much again. To just share our experience, like I mentioned at the beginning, our course is a skills-based course. So we used a number of online assessments in our course, starting from like quizzes that we run on our learning management system, which is Moodle, and also quizzes on Connect. We also have essay type assignments or assessments that we use for reflective assignments, and they run with Turnitin plugin on the LMS. And we also have case studies that we provide students to read a case and interpret, the skills that they have learned in the class. We also provide video assignments from Connect, and we also have discussion forums, which is also very important. We also have self-reports. As you can see, when we talk about the impact of online assessment in education, I think of it as the possibility, the diversified ways of assessing students. It gives us, different methods of assessing our students, different methods of measuring the learning outcomes, and different methods of, checking if our students are really on track. Having said this, particularly, I would like to mention some of, the experiences or, some of the benefits that I have seen. The first thing is we are able to create, relevant and meaningful assessments using online platforms. When I say relevant and online, you can take, for example, a video assignment. In this particular assessment, a student is presented with a real-life scenario or a real-life incident in a video, and the student is going to interact or answer the questions that follow, the video. So putting the video online makes, the presentation of the problem more realistic, more vivid, and it creates more understanding to our students. As you know, most of the things that we teach them are theoretical, and we want to show them how these theories or these activities are applied in a real life situation. So we can use like videos, to show them how the skills or the contents or the topics or the theories that we have discussed in the class applies in a real life situation. The second thing that I would like to mention is using online assessments helped our students to create knowledge. In the past, our students are only like passive recipients. Not now. In this platform, the students are also active creators of knowledge. How do we do that? For example, take discussion forums. You put discussion forum, a topic for students to share. Individual contributions. They can make like comments on other students' posts. What they do is they are exchanging ideas. They are sharing topics. They are sharing, information one another, which means that they are constructing knowledge, and this gives our students more motivation. The other thing that I would like to also talk about is the ease of creating online assessments and the ease of marking online assessments and the ease of analyzing online assessments. This is also critical. Imagine if you have 8 sections, let's say you have 200 students, you administer a quiz using paper-based to mark it and to transfer that mark into the grade sheet, online grade sheet. It takes a longer time, it takes our time. But now, with availability of this technology, we can run the quizzes individually in the different sections. We can, the grades are marked automatically. Then we can synchronize the grade to our grade book from the system that we are using to the grade book. This, simplifies our life in terms of in terms of the heavy workload we used to have in administering paper-based assessment. The other thing is availability of self-assessments. Self-assessments particularly are very important in skills development course, where I am particularly interested in. For example, we teach our students different skills, how to set a goal, how to manage time properly, different set of how to think critically. But I have to know first, my students know what time management is? Do my students know what goal setting is? Or do my students really know their own learning preferences? What is their learning preferences? How can I check an individual student's learning preference? And how can I advise a student to use a number of techniques to enhance, their learning preferences? The only way to do this is this self-assessments that are presented easily in an online format, and the system automatically generates the analysis of the self-assessments with the implication. Then you can engage with your students. You can engage with your individual student on how to help him improve his grade, or how to help him study better, how to improve his study skills based on the data that he gets. That's from that simple self-assessment. So the availability of this self-assessment makes it, more easier. I have even seen from a question from about plagiarism. For example, one of the assessments that we use is essay-type reflexive assignments. The student will submit it online. Before I mark it, the system automatically checks for plagiarism. Not only this, even marking essay assignments become more easier if you have a systematic, very clear blueprint of rubrics attached to the system, so that you can cross-check and you can give a more generic, comments to a large number of students submitting their assignment. So this is our experience in terms of a life skills course that I am involved in. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Berda. And I'm glad you've touched on plagiarism, because that's coming up a lot in our chat box and Q&A as well, because the audience really wants to know how we can cover the cheating aspect and how plagiarism, and we're going to go over that. I just want to quickly say that it's 3 p.m. in KSA and we're up time. So if you would like to stay for the session, we will continue on. But if you have to drop off or you've got other tasks to get done, then please do. But we will share the questions with you. The recording will also be shared. But if you've got anything else that you want to get done, we will still continue on with the session. So please stay on. But we just want to flag that if you've got something else to get done, then you might as well, because we are over time a bit. Moving on to the next question. This is for Dr. Asim. Can you please elaborate on how grading was conducted prior to introduction of technology and how automation has impacted this? A lot of audience has actually asked us about grading and how we have done this online, so I believe your answer is really going to help us, Dr. Asim.
Sure. Traditional way of grading the student assignments is actually a very hectic job. And, as you move up to the course level, this job will actually shifting to online will not help, because the high level courses we focus heavily on project and on case by case graded assignments. But the advantage of the online platform or the e-learning platform comes very clear in the low level class courses, where you have a number of students, a large number of students, and also you have a number of sections or instructors trying to achieve the same goals or objectives. So, for example, one of the courses that we have more than 1,000 students, and every time we have to do an assessment, we have to do a unified, standardized assessment. So the instructor collaboration is a must, and collecting and constructing the questions takes a majority of their time during the semester. And then once they have the student took the exam, they have to spend also a number of days trying to grade and to submit the student's grades. It was a hectic job, and actually it's cost us a lot of time and effort. When we moved to the online platform, it was a very we noticed the advantage of moving to an online platform from different aspects. One of them is that the questions, the assessment was graded automatically. So once the student submits the exam, it will be graded automatically. The other thing is that we have tried to actually to utilize the platform to create a very good assessment, accurate assessment. We increase the level of accuracy and also the level of authenticity of this exams. First of all, we have to get the student feedback about a number of questions. So to do that, we have assigned the student a small quizzes during the semester before the exam starts. So the advantage of these quizzes is that it's randomly pick questions from the pool of extensive pool of questions. Once the student encounters these quizzes, it will give us a feedback about the level of difficulty and the level of knowledge for these students. So we review these questions and categorize them by the level of difficulty and learning objective. So our task as an instructor, as a committee, is to actually analyze these data. So we analyze these data during the semester and try to categorize the questions according to the level of difficulty and objective, learning objective. Once we do that, in the 7th week, in the middle of the semester, we will have a clear insight about what should we ask the student and the number of questions and what is the exact time needed to solve such a questions. So we construct this very carefully, and actually by doing that, we give the student a pool of questions that the platform will pick randomly one for each student. So by doing that, we relax the strict synchronizing feature that must be done in the traditional grading system. For example, to do a unified standard exam, you have to gather, to group the student in the, all the students must do the exam at the same time. And we faced a lot of difficulty trying to pick the appropriate time for all the 1,000 students. And to do that also, we need a number of proctors to proctor the exam, to administer the exam, and so on. And this is very expensive. So by doing the pool of questions, the randomly picked questions, we relaxed. We were able to do unsynchronized exams, meaning that each instructor can do the exam at any convenient time during the week. So in his class time, he can do the exam freely without affecting the level of without affecting the accuracy and the authenticity of the exam. Now, moving on, we have the assurance of learning. We made sure that the student did learn all the learning objectives. So getting this data analyzed every time they do the exam and quiz is make achieving assurance of learning very easy, and also help fulfilling the accreditation requirement. This is one thing. And once we construct the unified exam in such a way, it has a longer time horizon. So the exact exam can be used a number of years, a number of semesters, instead of doing this exam one semester at a time. So right now we have constructed all the exams for all the courses in such a way that is not affected by the number of trials or the number of attempts the student get the exam. This actually give us more time to focus on more things and to progress in the course. Another important feature in the platform is the prerequisites feature. I mean by prerequisites that the student must do the assessment in a sequence order. For example, I can link the quizzes and assignment together, meaning that the student must do them in a sequence. So if he missed the deadline of quiz 1, he cannot basically enter quiz 2 because he missed quiz 1, and so on. If he did not do quiz 1, 2, 3, he cannot do the midterm. So this actually feature, the sequence feature, give us a lot of opportunity to manage the student with special needs, and also the student with lacking the commitment and diligence during the course. So the students were more diligent, more committed to their courses, because they know that if they missed one of these assessments, they will not be able to complete the course later on. So this actually minimized the number of cheaters down the road. So the student trying to cheat during the major exams will find it very difficult, because they missed already number of quizzes and exam, and they are very behind the other students. So they cannot be given the same opportunity as the student committed and have more diligence. That's actually one of the benefits of the online platform. So designing the course in a sequence way will eliminate the cheaters, and also eliminate the student, the free rider students at a certain point. These are actually the most important features that we benefited from the platform. And feel free to ask me any question if you have.
Thank you, Dr. Asim. You've said some very valid points about the random pool of questions and how they can administer the exam, and making sure the students are achieving their learning objectives. And the last point you mentioned was very unique about the fact that they're prereq assignments, which make sure they finish one by one, and it really helps them. So that really helps. Thank you so much. We will just follow up with the questions now in the Q&A. Thank you so much for your questions. There are lots of questions coming up. And the last question I have is for Dr. Breda, and then we can go into the Q&A, which is, what are the concerns of testing students online? I think a lot of universities are probably facing this similar challenge. So, and if you have any comments, you can feel free to type them up in the chat box. But Dr. Breda, what are the concerns of testing students online?
Thank you very much. Based on our short experience of using this online assessment, I can give you two different scenarios. The first scenario is testing students in a campus-based exam hall with computer-fitted technology to accommodate students for online testing. This is one scenario. when we do have also another scenario which we had in the last semester due to the occurrence of this pandemic. That is, the students are taking, a test from their home or from wherever they are. But now the question is, how can I check? How can I check if it is actually my student who is taking the test remotely, and how can also I check how is my student also taking the test? Because we usually set out a number of procedures. If I say it is open book, then the student can go and open his book or her book. But what are the possibilities of controlling students, in this kind of remote-based testing? This is actually from the side of when you test the students. The other thing is technical glitches. When you run online quizzes, be it in campus or from home, there is definitely a technical glitch. One experience that I would like to share is most universities or many faculties were not using quizzes online. And all of a sudden, this COVID came and everybody was giving the quizzes online. What happened then is the server is crowded. When the server is crowded, it shuts down in the middle of administering a quiz. So there was a technical problem even when we were administering assessments within the campus vicinity. The other thing is when students are doing this assessment from home, how can you check if a student is telling you the truth? For example, if a student says, no, that my computer is broken, the internet is this, power is off. They have so many reasons. Do you have any ways of checking the validity of this consent, this complaint? Because this will definitely have an effect into the reliability and the validity of the test scores. Because we are talking about the test scores, how to generate the really reliable results. The other thing is infrastructure. Are we prepared? Are we prepared to run a fully online tests within our campus? Do we have enough computer labs to administer, online assessments within our campus? Because if we run if all departments run online assessments, we might need more, examples which are fitted with computer technologies. So are we ready for that? And do our network is good enough? The speed of the network, is it good enough to accommodate also online testing is also another concept. The other thing is we as faculty, we are trained to do testing and examination in a more traditional way. And due to the advent of technology, maybe in the past 10 years, this online testing is becoming a new phenomenon, a growing phenomena in the higher education context, even in high schools. So are we trained to, for example, on how to design online assessments? How to create online assessments other than multiple choice, because we usually talk of assessment as a multiple choice or easy. There are a number of ways of assessing students in an online platform, but do we have the skill? Do we have really, the necessary pedagogical background, to design tests online? So staff development issue is also a concern here, that we have to train our staff members more on design. The other thing is, what about our students? Our students are also like us. Even though they love their telephone, they are good with technology, it doesn't mean that necessarily that they will handle online assessments easily. By tests or examinations, by itself create a certain level of anxiety, a certain level of stress on our students. Yet again, taking tests or examination in an online environment can create another stress for our students, because technology by itself is another. How good are they? For example, you can take a scenario where you have been teaching students throughout the semester in a face-to-face, then COVID came, then all of a sudden you run your quizzes online. What about the concern in terms of skills of our students to use this technology for assessment is also a question. And some people also raise proctoring, online proctoring as a possible solution. But that also is some possible solution, but it also comes with some side effects, like side effects in terms of like, privacy issues. The students may not be watched like that. It's like saying that having someone standing on your shoulder, to just check privacy. So all these are some of the concerns that comes to my mind when I think of like testing students online. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Breda. We'll just take one question or two questions, but we have all the questions for you that you've given us, and if we've not got a chance to answer them now in this session, owing to time, we will be able to follow them up with you. So that's fine. Thank you for your questions, but we will ask a few questions just and then move on to the demo proctorial. So is it something, can an AI tool be integrated with Connect to assess subject or short answer type assessments? So can you integrate any AI tool within Connect to for subjective and short answers type assessment? Sorry. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No. Should I go ahead and answer that question?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, well, actually, the short answer for that is that you can use this along with the Proctorio. Actually, Proctorio, what they use is the artificial intelligence to try to track the student behavior to detect any cheating behavior or suspicious activities. That's one way to answer the question. But if you are looking for a specific program, this cannot be actually integrated with the platform. We have tried actually in the past, we have tried to use very simple technique where we have used the lockdown browser, for example. It is not readily available in McGraw Hill platform, but this time I know that the McGraw Hill have provided the lockdown browser and Proctorio integration tools.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you covered that for us, because our next part and the last part now is the demo for Proctorio, which will answer a lot of questions already that a lot of our participants have. And I'll pass over to Geeta Kantolia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Geeta Chandolia, and I'm just going to talk to you very briefly around Proctorio. I'm going to start off with a little, caveat that I won't be doing a complete live demo today, but and that's owing to time. However, if you would like to see like a full-scale demo, I'd urge you to let us know, and we'll get a full-scale demo organised for you with a member of our sales team. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview of Proctorio so that you will understand it. Now, everyone's been talking about this on the session, that cheating is a problem. When we move to online learning, there is a natural kind of discomfort, concern that students are cheating. And I saw a couple of questions in the Q&A of, how can we guarantee that student is the student that's taking the online assessment? And that's a common challenge. Even when it's not online, there is cheating and it's prevalent. So a lot of our customers have been telling us this over some time. And what we try to do is to then partner with an organization that helps us to support online proctoring. And actually some of these were covered in the panel session earlier about some of the challenges around that. But to provide you guys with a solutional overview, I want to let you know a little bit about our partnership with a company called Proctorio. So Proctorio is something that we're going to have available within Connect, and that enables us to do different types of proctoring. So I'm going to share the various options. So we've got the opportunity to lock down a browser. So if somebody is in the Connect environment, there's the ability to be able to lock down that browser so a student can't then be accessing different browsers to access it. We've then got remote proctoring, which is essentially, as you can see me right now through my webcam, is being able to see the student physically doing the assignment, that that's the right student, and also to be able to see any suspicious behaviour, and then verification options. So if you're doing an assessment, it's being able to see that that student is the student with that ID actually taking the exam. So it enables that sort of complete, secure solution for our customers. And we at McGraw Hill have two main options we've got to offer in terms of this space. So if you use Connect or are planning to use Connect come fall, so in the August, which is only a couple of weeks away, then Connect will be available free within your access to Connect, and you'll have very basic functionality, so browser locking, video proctoring, basic reporting. All of that's going to be available free within Connect, which is a huge thing for us to be able to offer our customers, because for a long time, customers all around the world, and including the Middle East, have said that they need this to really help with combating cheating. And in the environment we're in today, that's something that a lot of people would like to have. In addition to that, we've also got Plus, which is slightly more sophisticated, artificially intelligent proctoring that enables more advanced browser locking, but also a little bit more reporting, detailed reporting if you want to get really advanced in terms of student behaviour. So that is available also at an additional $15 per student with access to Connect. So all of it will be integrating with our Connect platform, which I think is really important to note. So to race through and give you guys a bit of an overview, there are lots of different things we can do with browser lockdown, and I'm not going to go through all of this with you, but I thought we could cover, at a basic level, what's available free with access to Connect is that we've got the only one screen open. A student can't open any new tabs, they can't close any tabs. We disable printing, you can disable the clipboard. There's things that you can basically control a student being able to do at a very basic level. If you want them to be able to block other things, then we've got more of the Plus version, but really important for you to know that we can do that. When we then put recording options, so at a very basic level, a lot of our customers said, look, I just need to have that option there, so students are scared and therefore won't cheat. So at a very basic level, we've got the ability for them to record the test taker on video, which you can then look back and see. And if you're looking for more advanced options, i.e. you want to record their audio, you want to record exactly what's on their screen, what they're looking at on the website, then of course there's a Plus option there for you as well. Verification. Now, this is where it gets really sophisticated. If you do want them to verify that each of their devices are working correctly, then that's more of an advanced option, but it's there if you want to see it. So very much customized to whatever you're looking to do with your students. And if you know Connect already, so for those of you who are Connect users or have at least seen the platform before, Connect will actually, the proctoring will be available within assigning a bit of material to your students. So you'll be able to enable the options and then go in and configure what that's going to look like for your students. And then they will only see the options that you want them to see in terms of enabling it. So if it's something that's really integrated in the Connect, perfect. If you do decide that you want to go for more of the Plus option, you'll be able to select that, and then students will need to then enter into that pricing into their Connect package as well. So it's something to be aware of. Reporting, because I think most people want to see this. So at a basic level, you can see quite basic reporting. You can see the student name. You can have a look at what time they submitted and how many times they made an attempt. What you can also see is a video of the student as well as their IP address or where it was taken, which we think is quite important. So you know that the student who is in the location, this is where they've taken it from. And if we look here, then in Plus reporting, what you might want to do, and we've seen some customers say this already, is that they love the basic reporting, but they want to be able to see how suspicious the students are. And that's monitored by looking at the student's eyes and looking at if they're looking away from their screen constantly, if they look like they're looking at their phone. So that's then flagged in radar for you. So you're able to see that this student here at red is of high concern to you, and you need to try and follow up with them. So really worth you being aware that there are different levels of reporting. Now I realise we've got 4 minutes left. I promised that I'm going to go over half past, so I'm going to quickly scan through the rest. So we've also got very detailed reporting around, what are they actually doing. So this is again available in Plus. And then if we skip through, you'll be able to see exactly where the suspicious behaviour is happening within that it's flagged as red. So you're able to really get into the detail should you want to get to that level of analysis of what the student's actually doing. Now, looking at actually in a quick example before I run ahead is in the web traffic. So some people want to see if the students are opening up other web pages, what are they looking at the same time? So you are able to have a look at what websites they are visiting while they're on your Connect assignments. It's something worth being aware of, that you can get to that level of detail within our Plus package, and the level of detail available to you is quite detailed. So there are, obviously, if you want to export the reporting, which some of you want to, then there are export available versions of these for you. So if you want to export the reports, look at them like you can in Connect already, then that's also a definite possibility for you. So we've got quite a lot of different behaviour settings, and normally we have like a recommended set which we look through. Again, you can customise, decide what you want those behaviour settings to look like based on what it is that you're trying to get from the students. And there are different metrics, obviously, for different types of activities. So you might be looking at their keystrokes on their computer, on their keyboard, sorry. You might be looking at the head and the eyes, if they're moving away, if they're going and having a look at, you know, they're resizing the browser to open up another browser. So it gets really, really complex based on what it is that you're trying to do. Worth knowing that there's a lot of different options available to you to make it work for you and around your students, and based around what you're trying to do. Some customers would say for the high stakes type assignments where there's a grade involved, that those students, you know, technically you may be able to cover it without proctoring. So different customers use this in very different ways. Some will use it for a high stakes exam to have proctoring to make sure that they're not cheating in that high stakes environment. So it very much works around you. And I'm going to skip through some of these, but just wanted to show that over time, you know, where you are putting in these metrics in place, you'll start to see less and less suspicious students who are indeed cheating or not cheating over time, but worth you being aware that that's the overall outcome once you've got the measures put in place or around Proctorio. So I'm going to skip through these bits for you now, but if you would like to hear more about Proctorio or get more of a detailed demonstration beyond this, then by all means you can let us know by email or put it in the chat, and we can organise a one-to-one demonstration or with your teaching team so that you know exactly what proctoring can do for you and your classroom, because there is so much it can do in a virtual environment that we can't do physically, but it's trying to replace that experience. So do let us know, and we can take any questions before we come to a close. Thank you.
Thanks, Geeta. You've actually covered very engaging bits of Proctorio in a really short time, so thank you so much. We hope that answers most of the concern regarding teaching and proctoring, but as Geeta mentioned earlier, if you still have any questions or anything, please feel to type them up in the chat box, or if you'd like a follow-up from one of our reps, that's fine too. They will be happy to give you a detailed demo for Proctorio. And we'll just quickly end now owing to time. I just want to thank everyone today. Thank you to our esteemed speakers and attendees for joining us. We will be sharing the recording of this webinar via email, so you will be able to see the recording backward. Thank you for joining us today, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.